Hey there. Yeah, so I've been playing with Palworld and having a good time. I'm pretty new to this genre. I've never played Pokemon before, and I didn't play Palworld until 1.0. I'm on a PS5, so my experience will be a bit different from PS or PC players, I'm sure, and Xbox as well, I imagine. But at any rate, I'm having a good time with it. I thought I'd do just a tips and tricks, things I found useful or interesting or good to know. Wish I knew maybe prior to um, me starting, but I learned these lessons, and you can see I'm not end game or anything, and I'm still figuring it out, and I don't know much, but I do know these bits, and so I'm going to share. So first things first is even after you started a game, whether you customize the savings or not, unless you're doing something hardcore. If you're doing hardcore, this is probably not your video. Also, if you're doing a shared server and you're playing online with friends or strangers, whatever your deal is, if you're doing an online multiplayer experience and you're not in charge of your world settings, then obviously this doesn't apply to you. It applies to me because I'm playing solo. And so one of the things I wanted a specific flyer that you can only get at night, and I traveled all the way out there in time for dawn. And so I just exit the game, came out here, and I changed the settings. So I go to custom settings, and at the time, what I did is I put daytime speed to 5, and I put nighttime speed to 1. And I just waited in game for about 5 minutes, and it became nighttime. And then I went and hunted my winged flyer that I wanted. I actually wanted him for his nocturnal ability and ice, not so much for flying. I'll explain that in a minute. But I encourage anyone who's playing this and has control of these settings to come in and muck around, right? And if you need it to be daytime for a while, make it daytime. You need it to be nighttime for a while, make it nighttime. Keep in mind, your pets will sleep. So if you're grinding to get some armor or gun or something built and you don't want to stand there and do it, your pets will sleep long time if you turn up night. So it's really just a tool I use in order to help me farm without the tediousness of waiting, without a wait function, or yeah, just to kind of focus because there's a lot of this game that I'm dying to play, and I'm constantly mucking around with inventory more than anything, and I find that quite frustrating. I turned down my experience rate just recently. I felt like I was kind of leveling faster than I was exploring the world. Not a lot, but a little bit. And I've mucked around and touched some of this stuff. Most of it I just have. Like when I'm sleeping in a bed, I don't need to wait longer. So, like, I've turned that up a little bit. Like this, yeah. If I am going to sleep to recuperate my health, go faster. So I don't know what else I've done. Probably not very much. I didn't really know what I was doing. I turned off raids. I watched a few videos of people saying like good base locations and stuff. I didn't know what I was reading or getting into, and I do like the building games and stuff, like factory type. Create a supply chain, so to speak. But anyway, and everybody's like, go here, and then you can't get rated. Go here, put your base here, and you can't get rated. And I was like, well, if you can just turn it on and off at will, turn it on when you feel like doing raids. Build your base. If it fails, come here, turn it off, fix your base. If it becomes too much or it's annoying you or it's in the way, just come turn them off. You don't have to build in the middle of nowhere. And the other thing is that when you can't get raided because of your environment, there's one base that I saw that a lot of people picked that's apparently got coal early on, but it's in the top of a mountain. And yeah, it's a neat base, but nobody can raid you. And that means also you're not going to get any merchants. So no merchants will show up. You won't get any events, right? And so I feel like that's a bigger loss. So anyway, I'm just saying, come in here, play with your settings, and be okay with it, and just do what you need to do in order to get stuff done. Because the inventory end game management, I don't know about end game, but the inventory management alone is just, there's so much of it. It's such a good game, and the devs have completely blocked you from playing it by constantly making you travel back and forth to get one item in order to craft a thing. There is a guild chest that, and I'll start logging into the game here. Oh, did I actually? I don't want to change it in my settings. But yeah, there's a guild chest, but you don't get it till like rank 42, and even then you start to run out of space in that pretty darn quick, depending on what you share. So the one thing I wanted to talk about, it's nighttime, and so when it's nighttime, my creatures haven't spawned in yet, I don't think. Here we go. Everybody, here we go. You can have a fridge or you can have a cooler box, which makes your food last much, much longer. So my salads, instead of 11 minutes, I think they are on me. I didn't take any, and I don't have any. But um, yeah, awesome. So here, 21 minutes, and here, 177. And a fridge and a cooler aren't really meant for your pals to be feeding on. They're meant for storage. And so the idea, but the problem is if you have a nice guy who goes to sleep, then for half the day, your cooler, your fridge or your cooler box, and they're early on items, storage here, this cooler box and this refrigerator, if those aren't uh, constantly being cooled by a creature, you will lose coldness. And so it'll go back down to 11 minutes, like it is in your inventory or just in this basket before you get the good basket. But this doesn't unlock till 52. And it always sucks that there's no way. But there is a workaround, right? So you can almost eliminate your food grind early on if you can get a nocturnal or insomniac ice pet. So my nocturnal choice here is a late game choice, and I'll show you on the map. He's way up here. This is where they spawn, right? And so, maybe you get there, and someday when you do get there, that's great. But understand, like it's not till then that's the first. And the reason something's nocturnal is if it only spawns at night, right? So the only pets in the game they have an innate ability to work at night are the ones that only spawn at night. So you have to go at nighttime. Hence the settings at the beginning where I was trying to get that guy right there. So now that I have this, funny thing is I didn't get him until after I got this cooler box. So it's nice that I have the cooler box now. It's nice that at nighttime it's not going to spoil food faster. Um, but that being said, it is frustrating. So what you really want to do, and this is not an easy thing to do, is you want to look for cooling pets early on that have insomnia, right? And I have none. I didn't know to look for this until very recently when I started to figure out this whole cooling and icebox stuff. But I couldn't figure out why. I'd come back to camp and everybody was starving and mad and hurt and like, what the fuck? And then nobody's eating and they're all hungry and it's just like, what's going on? And what would happen is I would have a pet on the cooler and I would have all my food in there because it was lasting longer, thinking I am so smart. And as long as the pet was cooling it, everybody would go in and grab their food from it. But the moment he stopped cooling it, nobody could go into it, including him. So what would happen is whatever cooling pet I was using, he would get hungry at night when he was sleeping, and then he would say, "I'm not going to work anymore because I'm hungry," and then he wouldn't cool the fridge in order to open it so that he could eat and everyone else could eat, and so then the entire camp would starve. So, one of the pets you're going to be looking for early on. It doesn't matter what kind it is. It can be just a level 1 cooler. Doesn't matter, as long as they are an insomniac. Early on in the game, is going to be one of your most valuable pets. And then you can even use breeding later to like try and make more of them if you need. If you only get one and you happen to get a male and a female, but you only one of them has insomniac, you could start breeding them a little later into the game. And I can't remember when breedings come out, but it's when you get the breeding farm, right? And that's in the technology tree. And breeding farm, anyway, you can find it, but the other thing, anyway, so that's that. So that's a lot to say, but basically, yeah, the cooler system, the refrigerator, the cooler box, they just don't work. You have to have one of these baskets out, and it has to have food in it. And once it's out, that's where everybody goes anyway. And so not this basket particularly, you're going to be just the normal feed box. But you have to have one out. Sorry, I have to cough. If you don't have one out, and a PlayStation, so this isn't going to be edited. I'm kind of trying to wing it here. And I'll try to keep it more concise after this part. It was confusing to figure out. So yeah, eventually the guy cooling the fridge will stop, and then he'll put himself into hungry mode. He'll stop working, and then he'll refuse to cool the fridge, which means nobody will open it, and including him, nobody will eat, and then everybody starves, and you come back to the base, and it's a mess. So keep a feed box out. It sucks, but if you do get an insomniac cooling pet, you can then get a cooler box, and it should work. I haven't tested it thoroughly, but that's my understanding. And now that I have this guy, and I unlocked this at the same time, but I do have another one of these, and I'm going to go try it out. So I'll put a comment at the top of this video if that fails to work, but I think it will, because right now I just can't build another cooler box because I don't have plasteel and I haven't set up an oil refinery thing base yet, and I need that. So this was just I happened to go to Meteorites and got some oil enough to make 20 plasteel, and then I made myself my cooler box at my main farm. So that is the first part. The understanding that nocturnal is anything that spawns at night. That's a nocturnal creature, which means it'll work day and night. So those are quite valuable. So anything that you capture that, you know, it's just a very undervalued passive. Is the not nocturnal? Well, nocturnal, yes, but also insomnia. Insomniac is a very undervalued passive. So if you do get an insomniac creature, remember that that means that creature is going to work day and night. And so when you can have a bunch of creatures working day and night, you can actually set your stuff to relax work if you want, and then you can see everybody's in good condition. They're all happy. They just don't work that hard anymore, and so they're not super stressed. It's a very quick way to get your sand back, or if you don't like managing sand and you're not like really pushing to without raids and stuff. I don't know. Again, I'm new to this game, but for me, it's just been I can leave stuff on the normal easy mode, and maybe my next playthrough or something, I'll crank up the difficulty. But I'm just figuring it out. So anyway, so that is that part. I wanted to, and just if you do want those, these are Vanworm cysts. They're called Chris, maybe cysts would be gross. Christ. Vanworm Christ, and then you don't see like his passive skills find furs, and that's not his nocturnal is an innate ability because he spawns only at night, and so for him, he cools my thing day and night. Because the other thing I've done, and this is important as well, is I've assigned him to the cold food box, and so that's the other thing you have to do is if they have other abilities, you want to go in and turn those abilities off, right? So like this guy, oh, I forgot. I guess I didn't do that. But once he's assigned, he'll prioritize this over that. But if he had the hand, he wouldn't prioritize. He would go help build stuff, right? So make sure you turn off all these things. And a lot of people say these little stands where you can micromanage are kind of like micromanaging, and maybe you don't need it, but you will. So make sure you buy that. And yeah, you can set your work modes, and then you can kind of just, a guy who you really want focused on doing one thing, you can tell him do that one thing. Don't go and mine. I want you planting. Whatever the case may be. So that's that. And then the other thing I like to do is assign different electric creatures to those. But anyway, this is not all part I wanted to show you. I just wanted to make sure that the other thing that's interesting is with refrigerators, cold boxes, and this cold food box, I believe. If there's no food in it, you will not be able to assign this guy. So you click on him, he'll be lit up, but he won't. You click on this and it won't get the check mark. And you can do it over and over and over again. The reason is there's no food in there, so he will not. And so that's another way your camp can go sideways is if you don't put enough food in the box and they run out, he'll go. He'll stop being assigned to it, and you may not realize. Um, the other part, while we're talking about this assigning thing, this is your research, right? And you just want to kind of get this going as quickly as you can. The uh, the ancient PAL manuscripts come from running the missions with all your pals, and as you follow the quest line at the top, it's going to force you. And actually, that's not the quest line so much as the base upgrades. So as you upgrade your bases, one of the tasks will be to build the thing that dispatches those people. So what we're going to do next, let me just check my list because I made a list so I wouldn't be too scatterbrained doing this without editing. I was going to show the gliding trick, and so I think I still will. Where's a good high up spot? This is one. And I'll talk about this mountain at the same time. So this is the one that everybody talks about as a great base, but nobody can raid you, which means no merchants can show up. So it's like it's a choice, right? So it's that base over there. This that's everybody's like, oh, that's a great base, but it's like I said, where's my flyer? Oh, I took my did I take off? Oh, I got my tank. Anyway, so as you're flying, it's pretty it's slow. But what you can start to do is I don't know how it works on PC, but on PlayStation, it's a circle button, or it would be B on Xbox. You can hold it just briefly, and that'll descent, right? But if you hold it down just briefly, you don't descend much, but he goes into this animation where he goes faster, and it doesn't burn very much. stamina. So you can see by the time I run out of stamina, we'll do a little bit of a test here. I'm going to be fairly past this island, right? And yeah, I mean, I'm way past it already, right? Whereas we'll go get some stamina. These beetles are pretty good little tanks if you want beetles, but they're all over this area. There we go. Right, now I'm going to go flying back. Right, and I'm going to hit my L3 to fly fast. Well, look how much stamina is going. Right, and that's not even as far. So it's not, you know, um, it's a fairly significant boost, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it. So you hold down. The problem is that if you just tap the circle button, he's going to do his ability, right? And he's going to stop in midair and shoot shit or whatever, right? Depending on what guy you're flying. I may not make this. It's not. This is a problem. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Anyway, I should have just done that. And I got it. But anyway, not something I was really planning out. I was just wanting to show the flight and how much faster it is. Better? Question mark? I don't know. But it's if you just tap that circle just enough to start descending and then immediately let go when the animation starts, you'll you'll get a lot more distance and pretty fast. So anyway, I thought that was a good tip. I don't see a lot of people talking about it in the tip videos that I've watched. So there we go. I'm gonna go here, I think, and we're gonna talk about eggs and cake. And well, one thing we'll talk about first is the salad and the pizza, right? So you'll find out at some point, hey, I can build pizza now, and that's 184, and then the sand is 23. Why wouldn't I build that? It's almost the ingredients are pretty close to the same. Like, why wouldn't I build that instead of salad? And the reason that you want to build salad instead is that every time your pals eat, they get a work buff, speed buff. Oh, I should talk about this too, just so you guys know. I don't know if a lot of people know this. So when you go into your inventory, you can hit R2 for easy bulk storage, right? And what this will do, and then I have an exclusion list. So anything I say, hey, don't send all these things and cake, right? And it says, okay, well, we're not going to send anything then. I go, okay, cool. But you can remove it just like that too, right? So I add it with triangle. I removed it with triangle. That's the move everything button. I don't know how it works for PC. I think you just click, drag, and drop. But with PlayStation specifically, it's triangle to in and out. But anyway, and now that it's not protected in that exclusion list, and I say, go ahead and go ahead and oh, there we go, R2, and then I say go ahead and stow that. It's going to say, oh, you're going to put all that, and then you can tell it not to warn you every time once you get used to it. I don't know why it unchecked that for me, but anyway, it's good that it did for the demo. So that's your easy stash. The other way to easy stash is you walk up and hit circle here, and it'll do the same thing. Anything that's already in this chest will immediately move into this chest. So this is, if the items that don't exist in this chest won't get moved, but everything else will. Yeah, I wish you could make a list of like never pick this crap up, but anyway. And I don't have enough to make more chests here, so I'm just gonna move these. So then we're gonna do eggs, and I'm gonna talk about egg teams. So you can see that's what it put in. It tells me at the bottom 104 eggs, 72 milk. Those are items, by the way, you want to start farming early because you will need a ton of it for cake. Speaking of cake, I like cake. So cake, you're going to get a bunch of different cakes at some point in time. Where's the basic one? It's down here. For some reason I don't have. Oh, that's a mushroom. The basic one's here. Yeah, so this is what you need for a basic cake: flour, red berries, milk, honey. So these are things you can get early on, and one of those things is honey, and it's not super easy to come by until you understand a certain system. So one of the things you can do is you can sort by work suitability. And you want to turn off everything and just go to farming, and you hit sort. And now on page 1, you're going to have your farming guides, and it ranks them, but it doesn't really matter. What you're looking for is the description, over here where L3 is, or I'm making it change. In the description, it now tells you all the farming guys what they drop when you put them on a farm or on a ranch, right? And so this guy will drop ice organs. The bee guard drops honey, right? And so this guy drops wool. This guy sometimes drops ice organs, and again, so these are various seeds. He was super handy. The moment you can get him dropping seeds, so all that you're having troubles getting, wheat seeds or whatever, he'll fix that for you. So milk, and so these are the things that a good way to get wool. One of these, is it here? I think it's in my other. Actually, let's just go there. I'll show you. This is my I don't know what I'm doing. Um, this used to be my main base, and this is like literally down the hill from where you spawn or come out the door and talk to that guy at the very, very beginning. I didn't know what I was doing. Anyway, so I got these guys in here. So the other thing we want to talk about with cake is that one cake equals one egg. So when you have a breeding pair, and you have to assign them to the pen, just like I was assigning people to cooling. Um, but if you want one egg, you need one cake. If you want 5 eggs, oops, I didn't want all the eggs or cakes. But if you want 5 eggs, you want 5 cakes. So it's kind of like, we want 4 eggs. We're gonna go put in 4 cakes. So these are just basic eggs, so they're not gonna be special or fancy, but that's fine. I just wanted to kind of highlight. And then the other thing we're gonna do is we are going to talk about your presets. So I have an egg team. And so once you've gotten cake handled, and you've like farming those cake materials early, right? Oh, and that was the other thing I was going to show you is if I finish this thought. Where is there? I have somebody. Maybe it was at the other base now that I look at it. Who is assigned to? Okay, so yeah, so we have cotton candy, wool, ice organs, honey, electric organs, high quality pal oil in the frog guy there, and then the eggs being dropped here, right? And you can see all of that by sorting by farming and then reading their descriptions and just picking the guys you want. You want flame organs? Put a fox in, right? I have like 2,000 flame organs right now, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, and then you can also you can collect everything, right? Now you can't move, right? So you do your fast stow, right? And because the only chest in this base that has these materials is my guild chest, which is a shared chest across all my bases, that's where everything went. It's all in here. Unfortunately, pals will not deposit directly into the guild chest, it doesn't seem, so, or at least not consistently. So anyway, it's too bad, but it is what it is. So anyway, oh, and I was going to talk about pizza and salad. Yeah, I did, kind of. So anyway, you have to eat salad every 10 minutes. You get a buff for 10 minutes. Pizza, you have to eat it every 20 minutes. You get a buff for 10 minutes. So it seems better, but you lose the buff for 10 minutes. So the salad is 100% buff uptime. That's why you want salad. I'm so ADD, and I get sidetracked, and so then I have finished thoughts. But if you watch this whole video, you'll get the whole gist of it. Just take a little while for me to wrap up some of the points. So let me see what else I'm forgetting here. I was going to put on my egg suit. So I don't have a so the ranching, I showed that. Where is the researcher needs assignment? Take one egg, salad versus pizza. Force targets. Oh yeah, the one thing that's interesting is that when you're out with your pals and you have them on like defensive or whatever, a lot of people run with where are all my? Oh, I've got the cat out. Um, yeah. Anyway, if you want the pal to target something, just bring up your crosshairs and then whatever button brings up this for you, which is R3 on the PlayStation. Um, if you push R3 while you're aiming, it'll tell your pets to attack that target. Sometimes it doesn't work. The game is $40, and I tell myself that a lot because some of the things that you think would be more refined after 2.5 years of beta or whatever, is kind of surprising. But anyway, at the rate, that's pretty handy. So anyway, why did I put this guy on and only him? Well, I don't have the the um, the the guys, and I'm trying to remember their name. There's something called the Bron Cherry. So it's Bron Cherry, just like the fruit. And then one is an aqua and just one's a regular. And both of them will give you a potential upgrade of your egg. So eggs, when you, depending on the cake you use and when you do it, it might give you a big egg, like a large one. But if I had those guys with that ability, it might upgrade apparently into like an alpha egg, and then it becomes an alpha. So I got to go get a couple of those guys. I haven't done it yet, but it's on my list, and then they'll be part of my egg team. But the reason that I brought Grimtail is that there's two things I wanted to talk about here. So he has an ability that says, while in party, picking up a pal egg is a 50% chance of receiving one extra. It does not stack. So you only need one of him, but that's a pretty huge thing. And I think it goes up if you refine him. I'm not sure how much, but it might. I'm not 100% sure on that. So the thing that people don't realize, and that I didn't realize, and this goes for every ability that creatures have that's like in party kind of thing. In order for them to activate, you have to build a saddle. So the saddle for where is it here? The saddle for this guy is way back here. I didn't have it purchased. So you have to buy the saddle, then you have to craft the saddle, right? And then once you've crafted the saddle, which I just picked up and crafted, now his function works. And so when I go to party and I open him, it says, this is all good. Before I picked up that saddle, and I meant to show this, but I didn't, whatever. This was all blacked out, or there was red writing across it saying invalid, no saddle. But until you come to this screen and look at that, you wouldn't know, right? And so, anyway, you have to buy the saddle. And once you buy the saddle, then you can go get some eggs. So, back to the one egg is one cake uh, thing, just to show it. I put 10 eggs in this before I went for dinner and came back. And so there are sort of 10 cakes. And they were vegetable cakes. So I think maybe they weren't. Maybe they're just normal cakes. Oh yeah, they're normal because they're just little lambkins. So anyway, I now got 10 eggs. But now, because of that Grimtail, I got 15. Pretty 50% chance, pretty much on the nose, right? So that's cool, and you should know that. And I'm trying to think, is that everything? Are those all my tips? Um, yeah, I think that's the one cake, one egg, and then Grimtail, and that. Yeah, so I think the other one, the one thing that's PS5 only. So if you're not on PS5, this is not for you. Well, there probably is a button for you, so you'd be aware of it anyway. But when you do get into uh, building mode, right? You're building whatever. It doesn't matter if it's a fire or house or whatever, right? The touchpad in the middle of the PlayStation button is something you can push. Now I'm in disassembly mode, so I can, take stuff apart. Now I'm in painting mode, and I can paint stuff, right? So I want to paint, you know, uh, paint it blue. Okay, it's blue now. Whatever. But you can paint and you can get all these modes. I used to have to leave this screen all the time. I didn't know that you could just swap through them. So anyway, I found that super handy. So that's the bonus tip for PlayStation people. It's the big button in the middle of the controller. Super handy. And yeah, that's it. And we're going to call it there, and I'll go and capture this and then upload it to YouTube. Oh, YouTube.